The loudest revenge is silence. And the most brutal response is no response at all. You see, most people think power comes from shouting, proving, or fighting back. But in reality, the strongest move is often restraint. When you refuse to play their game, when you say nothing, when you guard your peace instead of your pride, you win a victory far greater than revenge. In this video, we'll break down why silence is the ultimate Stoic weapon, how quiet revenge exposes the weakness of those who tried to harm you, and why saying nothing will always cut deeper than words ever could. By the end, you'll understand why emotional intelligence, psychological boundaries, self-worth, inner peace, and quiet confidence are your true weapons, and why walking away in silence will always echo louder than any argument. Revenge. The very word carries fire. When someone betrays you, humiliates you, or disrespects you, the first instinct is almost always the same. I'll show them. I'll make them pay. The human mind is wired for reaction. It equates retaliation with power. But what if I told you that this urge to strike back is exactly what weakens you? The Stoics understood something most people still miss today. Revenge isn't strength, it's surrender. It's you giving your power to the very person who harmed you, because the moment your peace depends on their downfall, you've already chained yourself to their chaos. Think about it. When you spend your days plotting how to hurt them back, whose life are you really living? Not yours, you're living theirs. They've invaded your mind, consumed your energy, hijacked your focus. Your world starts revolving around their offense, and instead of breaking free, you become tethered even tighter. That's not victory, that's bondage. Revenge also blinds you. It tricks you into thinking that hurting them will heal you. But the reality, retaliation, might bring temporary satisfaction, but it rarely brings lasting peace. It's like scratching a wound. The itch is gone for a moment, but the wound only deepens. Here's the deeper Stoic truth. You don't need to fight them because they've already exposed themselves. Every act of betrayal, every cruelty, every manipulation, they've already written their own judgment. You don't need to lift a finger for life to deliver the consequences. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When you choose noisy revenge, you stoop to their level, you mirror their pettiness. You let their actions dictate your behavior, and in doing so, you hand them the victory they crave, the proof that they still control you. But when you rise above, when you say nothing, when you walk away with dignity, that's when you truly win, because nothing torments the manipulator, the narcissist, the betrayer, more than seeing that their poison didn't touch you. This doesn't mean you suppress your pain. Stoicism isn't about pretending you're unhurt. It's about mastering your response. Pain is natural. Anger is human. But letting those emotions control you, that's slavery. The moment you lash out, they win. The moment you remain calm, you break free. Let's get practical. Picture this. They expect you to explode. They expect you to argue, to fight, to prove. That's their fuel. Your reaction reassures them that they still matter. But imagine the opposite. Imagine you don't react at all. Imagine your silence is your only answer. What happens? Their ego crumbles. Their power evaporates. Suddenly, they're no longer in control of your emotions. You are. That's why fighting back weakens you. Not because you lack the ability to retaliate, but because retaliation means you're still playing their game. And if you're playing their game, you've already lost. True revenge isn't loud, it's silent. It's not about destruction, it's about detachment. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you no longer need to prove anything. And here's the irony: the quieter you are, the louder your victory becomes. Because silence speaks volumes. It tells them, you no longer matter enough to disturb my peace. It shows them I have grown beyond your reach. It reminds them, you thought you broke me, but you only revealed my strength. That's the Stoic way. Not to deny your humanity, but to discipline it. Not to chase revenge, but to choose evolution. Not to fight battles that drain you, but to stand so firm in your self-worth and inner peace that no attack can move you. The truth about revenge is this: fighting back keeps you chained, while silence sets you free. It is restraint, not retaliation, that defines real strength, because in the end, the most devastating thing you can do to someone who tried to destroy you is to live untouched, unbothered, and unbreakable. Silence is often misunderstood. Many people think silence means weakness, passivity, or fear of confrontation. But in Stoic philosophy, silence is not escape, it is strategy. It is not surrender, it is strength, properly wielded. Silence is the sharpest form of quiet revenge you will ever deliver. Why? Because silence destabilizes. The one who hurt you expects noise. They expect a reaction, anger, tears, accusations. They expect you to chase them, argue with them, or be for instance. That's their fuel. Your reaction proves they still hold space in your mind. But when you respond with silence, you deny them the validation they crave. Their ego starves. Their certainty collapses. Suddenly, they're not in control. You are. This is the paradox of silence. It appears passive, yet it is profoundly active. It shifts the power dynamic instantly. Instead of you fighting on their terms, you force them to wrestle with themselves. They hear echoes in the quiet. They replay their actions. They wonder what you're thinking. They project their guilt into the silence. And in that void, their mind becomes their punishment. The beauty of silence is that it requires discipline. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can scream. Anyone can retaliate in the heat of the moment. That takes no strength, but to remain calm, to sit in the storm and choose stillness that requires mastery of your emotions. That requires emotional intelligence. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Silence embodies this truth. It says, I cannot control what you did to me, but I can control how I respond, and in that restraint lies unshakable inner peace. But silence isn't just the absence of words, it's the presence of wisdom. Silence creates space, space to reflect, space to heal, space to grow stronger without interference. And space forces the other person to face what they've done without distraction. Think about it this way. Words often provide them with an escape. If you argue, they argue back. If you accuse, they deflect. If you beg, they dismiss. Noise becomes a shield that protects them from reflection, but silence strips away their defenses. There is no debate, no argument, no justification, just the unbearable weight of your absence. That's why silence is not weakness. It is a weapon. It is a boundary that says, my peace is not up for negotiation. My energy is not yours to consume. It's a way of reclaiming your self-worth without lifting a finger. And here's what makes silence so powerful. It doesn't just affect them, it transforms you. Each time you resist the urge to react, you strengthen your discipline. Each time you remain calm, you reinforce your identity as someone who cannot be provoked into chaos. Each time you let silence speak, you practice quiet, confidence. Over time, this builds a kind of presence that is unshakable. People feel it when they're around you. They sense that you're not easily swayed, that you're not desperate for validation, that you will not break under pressure. That's the kind of power that commands respect without a single word. But let's be clear, silence isn't about playing games. It's not about manipulating or pretending you don't care. True silence comes from clarity, not bitterness. It comes from knowing your value so deeply that you no longer need to defend it. It's the silence of someone who has mastered themselves, not someone trying to control others. And that's why silence always wins. Because noise belongs to them, chaos belongs to them, reaction belongs to them, but peace belongs to you. And when you wield it correctly, your silence cuts deeper than any insult, lasts longer than any argument, and teaches lessons no words could ever teach. So the next time someone betrays you, disrespects you, or tries to provoke you, remember this: your silence is not absence. It is presence refined, disciplined, powerful. It is the art of quiet revenge, and it will always echo louder than your voice ever could. Every time you react, you give away a piece of yourself. It doesn't matter whether that reaction is anger, tears, or desperation. If they can provoke you, they can control you. Reaction, no matter how justified it feels, is often the silent surrender of your power. Why? Because toxic people, manipulators, narcissists, they don't feed on your peace. They feed on your chaos. They thrive on knowing they still occupy space in your mind. For them, your reaction, whether it's shouting, crying, or chasing, is confirmation. I still matter. I still control the rhythm of their emotions. It's like oxygen to a flame. The more you react, the bigger their fire burns. The less you give, the quicker it suffocates. And here's the paradox: they don't care if your reaction is positive or negative. To them, both are proof of influence. If you scream at them, they think, I still have their attention. If you beg for closure, they think, they still need me. If you obsess over their betrayal, they think, I'm unforgettable. That's why reaction equals surrender. Because in reacting, you center them instead of yourself. You allow their behavior to dictate your state of mind. You tie your emotions to their actions. And the moment your inner peace depends on someone else's chaos, you've already lost. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Epictetus taught, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. In other words, the insult isn't what harms you, it's your choice to let it penetrate. The betrayal isn't what breaks you, it's your decision to keep reopening the wound with reaction. This doesn't mean you suppress your humanity. You are allowed to feel anger, sadness, even grief. But what you must not do is feed them with it. Because emotional intelligence is not about denying emotions, it's about mastering where and how you spend them. Think of your energy like currency. Every reaction is a payment. And the more you pay to people who only want to exploit you, the poorer you become. But when you hold your energy, when you refuse to react, when you practice stillness, you grow wealthy in self-control, wealthy in peace, wealthy in strength. This is why silence terrifies them. It's not just that they don't hear your words, it's that they no longer have proof of their importance. Your silence is their starvation. Your refusal to react is their mirror, forcing them to face themselves without the distraction of your energy. And here's where psychological boundaries come in. Boundaries don't just protect your time and space, they protect your energy. They remind you that not every battle deserves your presence. Not every insult requires your defense. Not every betrayal demands your retaliation. Sometimes the strongest move is the one you don't make. Quiet confidence is forged in these moments because the one who can master their reactions becomes untouchable. Imagine this: they try to provoke you, but you remain calm. They try to bait you into chaos, but you walk away. They try to steal your peace, but you refuse to sell it. In that moment, you win not just over them, but over yourself. And that is true power. Because revenge isn't about proving them wrong, it's about proving yourself right. Not by reacting, but by rising, not by surrendering to their game, but by refusing to play. The Stoic warrior doesn't waste arrows on shadows. He saves his strength for what builds him, not what drains him. And you must do the same. Guard your energy like treasure. Invest it only in places that honor your growth, your healing, your evolution. The next time someone tries to pull you into their chaos, remember this: your reaction is their victory. Your silence is your triumph. Because when you stop feeding them, you stop fueling them. And when you stop fueling them, they collapse under the weight of their own emptiness. That is why reaction equals surrender. And that is why silence, discipline, and boundaries will always be the highest form of revenge. Silence by itself can be misunderstood. Some people see it as avoidance. Others see it as weakness. But when silence is paired with boundaries, it transforms into a fortress. It's no longer about running away. It's about standing firm without needing to fight. Boundaries in silence send a message louder than any words. You no longer have access to my energy. And that's where the real power begins. When someone has hurt you, they often expect you to still be available. They expect you to answer late-night messages, to respond to guilt trips, to defend yourself against accusations, to leave the door cracked open. This expectation comes from entitlement. They believe they can violate your trust, and still demand your attention. But when you go silent and enforce boundaries on top of that, you cut off their supply entirely. That absence, that refusal to engage, becomes their mirror. Suddenly, they're left alone with themselves. No distraction, no validation, no easy access to your patience or forgiveness, and in that void, their mind begins to unravel. Here's the secret: boundaries aren't just walls to keep others out, they are standards that protect your peace. A true boundary doesn't just say, stay away. It says, if you want access, you must rise to my level of respect, humility, and consistency. When you pair boundaries with silence, you take away the option of manipulation, because without access, they can no longer test you. Without reaction, they can no longer provoke you. Without your energy, they can no longer feed. They are forced to face their own emptiness, their own ego, their own guilt. And that is the art of quiet revenge. You didn't scream. You didn't argue. You didn't prove. You simply withdrew and let absence do the work. Because absence doesn't just remove you, it amplifies you. It magnifies everything they lost. Think of it like this: when you were present, they normalized you, your love, your patience, your forgiveness, your emotional intelligence. It all became background noise. They stopped noticing. But when you withdraw, when you enforce silence, every small thing they once dismissed echoes like thunder. Your absence is no longer just space, it's power. This is why Stoicism values restraint. It's not about suppressing your humanity, it's about recognizing that your greatest strength is control over yourself. Silence with boundaries shows that you don't need to fight for dignity, you already own it. You don't need to demand respect, you command it by refusing to lower your standards. Of course, silence without boundaries can backfire if you're quiet but still secretly waiting, still checking, still hoping. Your silence becomes a tactic, not a truth. They will sense it. True silence requiert conviction. Boundaries require discipline. Together, they form a shield no manipulation can pierce. And here's where your growth shines. Every time you enforce these boundaries, you reinforce your self-worth. Every time you choose absence over chasing, you protect your inner peace. Every time you stay silent instead of explaining yourself, you practice psychological discipline, and over time, you transform from being someone who once needed closure to someone who is closure. The truth is, silence plus boundaries isn't about punishing them, it's about preserving you. Because revenge that comes from hate still ties you to them, but quiet revenge through boundaries detaches you completely. You no longer need their recognition, their apology, or their return. Your absence itself becomes the lesson, the justice, and the victory. So the next time you're tempted to break your silence, to defend yourself, to prove your side, remember this: every word you speak gives them oxygen. Every response reopens the door. But every boundary you uphold tightens your grip on peace. And when you protect your peace, you've already won. Because in the end, silence with boundaries doesn't just end the conversation, it ends their access to you. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's not punishment, it's liberation. and it turns your absence into the most unforgettable presence of all. The ego thrives on attention. It feeds on validation, whether positive or negative. To the fragile ego, even anger is proof of power. Even conflict is proof of relevance. That's why when you go silent, truly silent, it shakes them at the core. It doesn't just frustrate them, it dismantles their self-image piece by piece. At first, they may laugh it off. They'll call you cold, bitter, or immature. They'll convince themselves that your silence is temporary, just another game. But as days turn into weeks, the quiet grows heavier. Your lack of reaction forces them into a confrontation. They cannot escape the confrontation with themselves. Here's what happens inside them. 1. Confusion. They wonder, why aren't they reacting? Why aren't they answering? For someone who once fed on your attention, silence is disorienting. It disrupts the script they relied on. 2. Insecurity. Soon, confusion mutates into doubt. Did they move on? Did I lose control? Was I not as important as I thought? The ego, which thrives on superiority, begins to panic at the possibility that it never mattered as much as it believed. 3. Fragility. Silence strips away the illusion of power. Without your energy to lean on, they realize how dependent they truly were. The very person they thought they controlled is now the one they cannot reach. This is the paradox. Silence doesn't just protect you, it exposes them. It reveals the cracks in their confidence. It shows them that their worth was tied not to who they are, but to the reaction they could extract from you. And now that reaction is gone. That's why silence is often more brutal than words. Words can be debated. Words can be twisted. Words can be ignored. But silence leaves no defense. It sits in their mind like an unanswered question, replaying endlessly, draining their ego with every passing moment. Think of it this way: when you argue, they gain energy. When you cry, they gain significance. But when you say nothing, when you detach completely, they lose their reflection. And without a mirror, their ego begins to collapse under its own weight. This collapse can manifest in desperate attempts to regain control. They may test you liking old photos, sending fake messages, or trying to provoke a reaction through others. But each attempt is proof of how deeply your silence unsettles them, because for the first time, they're realizing they don't own the access they once abused. And here's where your strength must hold, because if you break the silence too soon, you hand them the validation they're starving for. You rebuild the ego you worked so hard to dismantle. But if you stay grounded, if you remain calm, if you choose your quiet confidence over their chaos, you let them taste the full weight of what they lost. The Stoics understood that the enemy's collapse is not your doing, it's their own. Your only role is to refuse participation in their drama. As Seneca said, "He who does wrong shall suffer it." Your silence ensures that truth plays out without interference. And while their ego struggles, something else happens. You grow, your self-worth deepens, because you've proven to yourself that you don't need to fight to be free. Your inner peace expands, because you no longer let external storm dictate your calm. Your psychological boundaries solidify, because you've shown that silence can be both shield and sword. This is the moment they realize the one truth they never expected: they needed you more than you ever needed them. And when that realization collides with your silence, the collapse is inevitable, not because you destroyed them, but because you refused to save them from themselves. So, don't underestimate the power of silence. It doesn't just protect you, it dismantles them. It doesn't just guard your peace, it exposes their weakness. And it doesn't just win the battle, it ends the war. Because when silence breaks their ego, there's no louder sound in the world. Detachment is one of the hardest disciplines to master. Our instincts scream at us to hold on, to fight for closure, to argue for justice, to make them understand the damage they caused. But Stoic wisdom flips the script. The ultimate act of strength is not in proving, not in punishing, but in detaching completely. Why? Because when you detach, you reclaim everything they thought they had taken: your time, your energy, your focus, your peace. You stop letting their chaos dictate your state of mind. You refuse to let their presence occupy space in your heart. And nothing dismantles a manipulator's illusion of control faster than realizing they can no longer pull you into their storm. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about yourself than about prolonging a cycle that destroys you. It means you recognize that your self-worth is not measured by how much pain you can endure, but by how quickly you can walk away from what disrespects you. The truth is, people who hurt you expect you to stay tethered. They expect you to chase, to demand answers, to keep replaying the story. That's how they maintain control, by knowing they still shape your emotions. But detachment is the quiet declaration: you no longer own space in me. I've taken it back. And that is the ultimate revenge, because what could hurt them more than seeing the person they thought they broke still standing calm, whole, untouchable? What could bruise the ego more than realizing that your healing didn't require their apology, their approval, or their return? Detachment requires emotional intelligence. It's the ability to observe your own pain without being ruled by it, to feel the anger but not act on it, to acknowledge the betrayal but not allow it to define you. In detachment, you learn that your emotions are signals, not shackles. You listen to them, but you don't let them chain you to someone else's behavior. And here's the paradox: the moment you stop needing closure from them, they start seeking it from you. The moment you stop chasing, they begin to wonder. The moment you walk away, the silence becomes their burden. Your detachment forces them to face what they lost, while freeing you to rise higher than you ever could with them in your life. Walking away is not weakness, it's wisdom. Weakness is staying where you are disrespected, hoping for change that will never come. Weakness is giving chance after chance to someone who has shown you they cannot honor your boundaries. But walking away, that's the decision of someone who knows their worth, someone who protects their inner peace at all costs. The Stoics taught this relentlessly. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And what is more beyond your control than the behavior of those who hurt you? Detachment is the embodiment of that truth. It's letting go of what you cannot control and refusing to be enslaved by it any longer. When you detach, you Evolve. You stop fighting battles beneath you. You stop seeking validation from people too blind to see your value. You stop mistaking Ks for connection, and in doing so, you step into a new realm of strength, quiet, confidence. This is why walking away is the ultimate revenge, because revenge rooted in retaliation keeps you tied to them, but revenge rooted in detachment liberates you completely. It denies them access to your life, your mind, your heart. And in that absence, they finally realize the gravity of what they lost. But here's the best part. Detachment doesn't just destroy them, it builds you. It teaches you discipline, it hardens your resilience, it deepens your peace. It forges a version of you that no betrayal, no manipulation, no abandonment can shake again. So the next time you're tempted to react, to chase, to demand closure, pause, breathe. Remember, their punishment is not your responsibility. Their reckoning is not your burden. The most devastating thing you can do is nothing at all except to walk away, heal, and never look back. Because the ultimate revenge isn't in proving what they lost. It's in living like you never needed them to begin with. There's a kind of power that doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to prove, doesn't need to dominate. It doesn't rely on revenge, arguments, or explanations. It simply exists, and everyone who comes near it feels it. That power is quiet confidence. Quiet confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance brags. Confidence whispers. Arrogance demandes attention. Confidence commands respect without saying a word. And the most devastating revenge you can ever deliver to someone who hurt you is to embody this state of being calm. Untouchable. Unshaken. When you step into quiet confidence, you stop reacting to every provocation. You stop defending your worth because your worth is self-evident. You stop chasing validation because you are no longer hungry for scraps. You're feasting on the peace you built within. And here's the beauty of it, they notice. Oh, they always notice. The same person who once thrived on your emotional chaos will suddenly find themselves disarmed by your calm. The silence that used to feel like emptiness now radiates presence. Your refusal to argue is no longer passive, it's powerful. It says without words, "You cannot touch me anymore." This aura unsettles them, because their ego once fed on your instability. Now, all they see is balance. They used to trigger your anger, but now they're met with composure. They used to expect tears, but now they see a steady gaze. They used to believe you needed them, but now it's clear you never did. Quiet confidence is magnetic. It draws respect from the right people and exposes the wrong ones. It unsettles manipulators while inspiring admiration in the wise. It flips the power dynamic completely, not because you fought harder, but because you no longer fight at all. The Stoics modeled this effortlessly. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet his writings reveal a man more concerned with mastering himself than conquering others. Epictetus, born a slave, radiated a calm so unshakable that even emperors sought his wisdom. Their power didn't come from dominance. It came from restraint, from discipline, from a quiet confidence that no insult, betrayal, or cruelty could touch. And you can cultivate the same It begins with knowing your self-worth, not in theory, but in practice, knowing it so deeply that no one else's rejection can shake it. It grows through psychological boundaries, learning to say no without guilt and to protect your energy without apology. It flourishes with inner peace, the kind built not on external approval but on self-mastery. When you live in quiet confidence, you become unpredictable to those who once tried to control you. They can no longer bait you into arguments. They can no longer feed off your reactions. They can no longer define your identity. And in that unpredictability, their power over you dissolves. But here's the deeper truth. Quiet confidence is not just revenge, it's evolution. Because at some point, revenge loses its appeal. At some point, proving them wrong feels small compared to proving yourself right. At some point, their collapse matters less than your growth. And in that moment, you realize the real victory isn't that they regret losing you, it's that you no longer need them to. Quiet confidence is the aura they cannot touch. It's the energy that makes your silence deafening. It's the state of being that turns you from supply into standard, from target into teacher, from wounded into warrior. And once you master it, you'll never go back. Because the truth is, nothing terrifies those who hurt you more than watching you live unbothered, peaceful, and radiant. That's not just revenge, that's transcendence. There is nothing more disarming to those who tried to hurt you than seeing you at peace. Not pretending to be at peace, not performing calmness to provoke them, but truly, deeply, authentically unbothered. Because when your heart is steady, their chaos has nowhere to land. Inner peace is the victory they never saw coming. They expected anger. They expected retaliation. They expected sleepless nights, endless arguments, desperate pleas. What they did not expect was your calm, and that calm cuts deeper than any scream ever could. Why? Because anger is predictable. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can throw words like weapons. Anger may feel powerful in the moment, but it reveals more about you than about them. It shows they still have access to your emotional core. But calmness shows mastery. Calmness shows discipline. Calmness proves that they no longer hold influence over your soul. This is why the Stoics placed inner peace above all else. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The insult is external. The betrayal is external. The loss is external. But your peace that belongs to you, and once you learn to guard it, no one, not even those who once broke you, can take it away. Inner peace is not passive. It is an active, deliberate stance. It takes courage to stay calm when provoked, discipline to remain composed when disrespected, strength to choose silence when anger is begging for release. It is a battlefield within yourself. But when you win there, you win everywhere. Here's the paradox. The calmer you are, the louder your silence becomes in their life. They read it as rejection. They feel it as judgment. They interpret it as indifference, and nothing bruises the ego more than realizing they no longer have the power to disturb you. Your calm is their collapse. This is why calmness cuts deeper than anger. Anger is noise. It can be dismissed, mocked, or used against you. Calmness is a mirror. It forces them to sit with themselves. In your silence, they see their guilt. In your stillness, they hear their own noise. In your peace, they are confronted with the chaos they carry. Think about the last time you saw someone unbothered by drama. Their calmness didn't make them look weak, it made them look untouchable. That's the same aura your peace radiates. It says, I am no longer playing. I am no longer affected. I have moved on, and nothing you do will change that. And here's the best part. Inner peace doesn't just punish them, it liberates you. Because the truth is, revenge can keep you tied to the past, but peace frees you into the future. Revenge says, I want to hurt them back. Peace says, I no longer care enough to try. That shift in mindset is the truest mark of growth. When you sit in your peace, you are no longer waiting for closure. You are no longer replaying the betrayal. You are no longer asking why. You have become the closure. You have become the ending. You have transformed the pain into wisdom, the betrayal into discipline, the silence into strength. And that's why calmness is the ultimate victory, because it's not about what happens to them, it's about what happens in you. You don't just survive, you evolve. You don't just heal, you transcend. You don't just win, you rise. So the next time you're tempted to break your silence, to argue, to prove your point, pause, breathe. Remember this, their chaos is not yours to carry. Their noise is not yours to answer. Their guilt is not yours to fix. Protect your peace. Guard it like treasure, because peace is the one form of revenge that heals you while haunting them. In the end, anger only proves they mattered. Peace proves they no longer do. And that, more than anything, is why calmness will always cut deeper than anger. Revenge, even in its quietest form, is only the beginning. Yes, silence unsettles them. Yes, boundaries dismantle their control. Yes, calmness cuts deeper than anger, but the highest Stoic truth is this: life is not about teaching them a lesson, it's about elevating yourself to a place where their actions no longer define you. Revenge is reactive. Power is creative. Revenge looks backward. Power looks forward. And the true art of quiet revenge lies in transforming your pain into something so powerful that their memory becomes irrelevant. The people who hurt you expected you to stay stuck. They assumed you would waste years replaying the betrayal, burning energy in bitterness, shrinking under the weight of what they did. That is the prison they hoped to trap you in. But when you rise above it, when you take that pain and build strength, clarity, and purpose, from it you shatter their expectations. You prove that the very wound they inflicted became the foundation of your transformation. This is what the Stoics called amor fati, the love of fate, the idea that nothing that happens to you is wasted, even the pain, even the betrayal, even the heartbreak. It all becomes fuel. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you begin to ask, "How can this serve me?" That shift turns you from victim into victor. Think about it. Your heartbreak can sharpen your boundaries. Your betrayal can deepen your self-awareness. Your loss can teach you resilience, and all of it together can forge a mindset so unshakable that no one can ever break you the same way again. That is not revenge. That is evolution. And here's the paradox: when you stop caring about revenge, you've already won the greatest revenge of all. Because you no longer live in reaction to them, you live in creation for yourself. You're no longer chained to their memory. You're free to build a future they cannot touch. This transformation terrifies them more than silence ever could, because silence unsettles the ego. But growth destroys the illusion of significance. When they see you thriving, glowing, expanding beyond the pain they caused, they're forced to confront the truth. They were only a chapter, not the story. And you don't have to flaunt it. Stoic transformation doesn't scream, "Look at me now." It whispers, "I no longer need you to look at me at all." The confidence is quiet. The growth is steady. The peace is unshakable, and that aura speaks louder than any revenge ever could. This is why you must never waste your suffering. Pain will come, it is inevitable. Betrayal will come, it is part of life. But what you do with it is your choice. You can let it poison you, or you can let it purify you. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. You can let it chain you to the past, or you can let it catapult you into a future of power, discipline, and wisdom. Transforming pain into power is not just about healing, it's about mastery. Mastery over your emotions, mastery over your reactions, mastery over your path. It's choosing to turn wounds into weapons, scars into symbols, and silence into strength. And here's the ultimate truth: when you evolve like this, they don't just regret hurting you, they fade into irrelevance, because the life you've built in their absence is so expansive, so rich in meaning, that their memory is a footnote, not a defining chapter. That is when you've truly gone beyond revenge. So let them underestimate you. Let them believe you're broken. Let them think their betrayal defined you. And then prove them wrong, not with noise, not with anger, not even with silence alone, but with a life so powerful, so peaceful, so purposeful that they no longer belong anywhere near it. That is the art beyond revenge. That is the transformation only pain can teach. And that is how you rise, not just above them, but above who you once were. There comes a moment when revenge no longer interests you, not because they didn't deserve it, not because their betrayal was small, but because you've grown beyond the need for it. You've stepped into a place of strength where their actions no longer dictate your state of mind. This is the moment when you transition from revenge to evolution. Revenge is about them. Evolution is about you. Revenge says, "I'll hurt you back." Evolution says, "You no longer have the power to hurt me at all." And that difference is everything. When you reach this level, you become untouchable. Not because life no longer challenges you, but because nothing external can control your internal world. You've built a fortress within a fortress made of self-worth, inner peace, and quiet confidence. Every storm outside only proves how unshakable you've become inside. To those who once harmed you, this transformation is terrifying. They expected you to crumble, to chase, to collapse without their presence. Instead, You've grown into someone they can no longer reach. Their guilt, their ego, their loneliness, all of it screams for your attention, but your silence and strength prove the truth. You've outgrown their grasp. And here's the paradox. The ultimate revenge is not in making them suffer. It's in showing them they no longer matter. Your evolution is the mirror they cannot look away from, because it reflects not just what they did, but how small it has become in comparison to who you are now. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself. Your freedom is not found in punishing others, but in mastering your own mind. Your victory is not in their regret, but in your resilience. Your triumph is not in their collapse, but in your calm." Becoming untouchable doesn't mean you're cold or heartless. It means you've learned to love without attachment, to forgive without reopening the door, to feel deeply without being consumed. It means you can stand in the presence of betrayal and say, "This does not define me. My response define me," and that is where you win forever. Because when someone realizes they can no longer trigger you, no longer manipulate you, no longer draw energy from you, they lose the only weapon they ever had. Your evolution disarms them completely. Think about it. What's more powerful, to argue with them endlessly, proving your side, or to live in such peace that they have no side to argue against? What's more devastating, to scream at them, showing how much you still care, or to walk past them in silence, showing how little power they hold now? The answer is clear. Revenge might satisfy the ego for a moment, but evolution satisfies the soul forever, because evolution doesn't just free you from them, it frees you from needing validation, from needing closure, from needing the world to apologize for its cruelty. It makes you whole in yourself. And once you're whole, you're untouchable. Their opinions can't move you. Their absence can't break you. Their return can't sway you. You've built a life so rooted in discipline, peace, and clarity that nothing external can uproot it. This is the destination of the Stoic path, not to destroy your enemies, but to rise so far above them that their existence no longer disturbs your spirit, to transform pain into wisdom, betrayal into boundaries, silence into strength. And when you reach this place, you don't just win, you transcend the game entirely. Because the truth is, you were never here to fight them. You were here to discover yourself. That is the final evolution. That is the art beyond revenge. That is what it means to be untouchable. In the end, the sharpest form of revenge is not anger, not shouting, not even proving them wrong. It is silence. It is calm. It is the discipline of walking away and never looking back. Because your peace is louder than their chaos. Your stillness is heavier than their words. And your quiet confidence is the one thing their ego cannot survive. You've seen it now. Revenge isn't about hurting them. It's about evolving so far beyond them that their presence no longer touches you. That is the art of quiet revenge. That is why saying nothing wins every single time. So, protect your energy. Guard your self-worth. Let your silence echo louder than any argument. And most of all, let your evolution speak for itself. If this message resonated with you, don't just leave quietly. Join our community of strength and wisdom. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to Think Stoic 101, and let's keep growing together. Because healing isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning of your power.